What up, YouTube? Darth coming at you from my redstone world here with something I'm pretty excited about. I think this is kind of nice. It's a flush and seamless 2x2 redstone door. Oh yeah. Now I've got a disclaimer to this sexy thing here. The redstone, it's 100% flush, but you kind of have to cover that up. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I guess that makes it not 100% seamless, because when you make it flush, you can see that. But you know, build around it. It's still flush and seamless on the plane of your avatar. So, okay. So the first thing you need is a place to pretty much build this thing. I've got one right here. I'm going to go ahead and extend the floor out a little bit on both sides there. First thing you want to do is you want to figure out where exactly you want to place your pistons. Your wall is going to be on these two spots, and it's going to be moved back to these two spots. So right behind those spots you want your sticky pistons too high. Now we'll simulate this part of it being ready to completely open. And these are going to be pulled out one, so they'll be sitting there, which means the piston that pulls them needs to be there, but it needs to be facing the other direction. So, and we'll do it like that too, both of them. Oh nope, got to be facing this way, and then two on top of those facing in as well, and then on the other side. Now for this part I'm going to use yellow and orange wool. On these ones that pull the door in, I'm going to use yellow. Now I'm going to put some redstone on those. Those are my money blocks for these ones. And we'll show that by putting a lever on them. There, now it's open. And then the ones that power these ones here are going to be above and beneath, so the floor and the ceiling. So now I have the ceiling and the floor both wired together. I had to invert the ceiling since the floor is run by a torch, and as you notice when I flip it, they are out. Remove power and they are back in. That's pretty much what we want. We want the torches to be off here and the line to be off here when they are in. Not that we have a choice. Okay, so the next thing is we are going to connect these. And all this is subject to change. This is just where I'm putting it right now. As we place the other wiring, it might be beneficial to change some of this, so bear that in mind as we place it. And now we can place a lever here, turn it on, and remove that, and the power stays onto those pistons. Now they have 1 point of power. Okay, so my next order of business was to add a repeater here, and the reasoning for adding that repeater was to mirror the timing down here, so the top and the bottom both open and close in unison. And then I placed a repeater here from this side to this side because they need to be in the same state, but the timing had to be different, so I had to play around with them to see what I could get going on to make this happen together. And now that I have it, as you will see, they open and they close as one. So with our door open close mechanism done, next we want to focus on the block shuffler. The block shuffler is going to remove these blocks, and it's going to replace them with blocks that look like the wall. That is done only when the door is open, so we need to pull those out either up or down depending on what part of the wall they're on. And so there will be one right there, right there, right there, and right there. And it's going to look like that. So those will pull the pistons out. They need replaced with blocks. And that will be done with just a piston. It'll push a block from here in. This will already be there, so the block will push that piston out. So you need a space here, and then you will need, so that space right there is going to be where the piston's pushed, and this needs to be another piston pushing that sticky piston back. So we'll temporary block there, right there. So we will need a setup like this for all 4 of these sticky pistons that are pulling, and this is what it's going to look like. And I would recommend that it's probably easier to put those in before you start playing around with any of the redstone lines. Next, we're going to connect each set of pistons that fire together, and there are 3 of them. These top ones and bottom ones that pull those out, we're going to call those the placement pistons. We'll go ahead and give those purple. Let's put that over here for now. The over here, we'll call these the front swappers. These ones and the ones underneath that are in front, we'll give those light blue. And then the rear ones here, we'll call those the back swappers, just so we know what we're talking about. Let's go ahead and extend the walls out to these pistons, to the back swappers, and let's extend the ceiling the same. Same thing to the front swappers. Make everything flush there. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to connect all these up and make it to where each of the sets is connected all to itself. And that should be good. This connects up here. And go ahead and activate that. And we see above and below that it has hit all of the pistons. We'll then do that to the front swappers, and then we'll do that separately to the what did we say, placement pistons. So the first thing I like to do when I get to these 2 is I like to make a connection between the bottom ones, and then a separate connection up here between the top ones. Now that we've got each of these wired up together individually, you will see all 4 of the rear swappers fire together. All 4 of the front swappers fire together. Front swappers. And all 4 of the placement pistons fire together. And because the rest position of the placement pistons is out, we will invert the input onto that line with a torch. Okay, so if you've thought any of this was tedious up until now, we're just getting started. This is the fun part. We've really only got 2 steps left, but the first step is when we synchronize the block swappers. So we're going to get those all timed on one signal, and then we're going to combine that signal with the door opening and closing signal. Now we're going to do this with the door open, and we're going to place it right in front of the front swappers, and we need to do that to all 4 of the front swapper pistons. Okay, now we're going to play around with the cycle of this thing. Once it opens, you want the placement blocks or pistons to retract, and then you want the front swappers to pulse, just pulse, out then back, and then you want the placement pistons to retract. Now it looks like it's completely open, because it is. And then the next thing you do when you push the button, you want these to fire first, and then you want that to pulse, and then you want this to fire again. And as you'll see, it has your pistons back out, and then the door will close, and that's your sequence of events. And what this does is, when a pulse flashes right here, it goes across this line in 1 tick, 2 ticks, 3 ticks, and in 4 ticks. So leaving this line here powered for 4 ticks, which leaves that off for 4 ticks, which leaves these out for 4 ticks, giving ample time for the swapper block or pistons to do their job. So what we need is, when we push the button once, it pushes from the front, and when we push it the second time, it pushes from the back. Straight from the button here into a T flip-flop, and that T flip-flop runs to this block, which powers the line beneath and the line off to the side. The line off to the side is for opening and closing the door, which I have locked with this. So now when I activate that button, the door will just stay open. So I come down here, go off this way, and the first thing that happens when you push that button, 2 ticks, 1 tick, 2 ticks away from the T flip-flop, this unlocks, which is the rear swapper. This one's inverted, the front swapper, so when that's unlocked, this is locked, and vice versa. So that's how it determines which one's going to fire, because they both fire at the same time off the same line, but this locks one. Now that same line coming this way, so it does that on the second tick. Over here on, I want to say, the 8th tick, it gets through here and pulls this, and it leaves that pulled until the 11th tick, and it pushes it back up. Okay, well, counting the repeaters off this way, this is 6. You got 7, 8, 9, and 10 for the pistons. So this is going to push the block in the way of that on the 10th tick, and then this is going to push it back on the 11th tick. So that's your shuffler. And I told you I've got the door removed from it, so pushing the buttons shuffles back and forth. And so you'll want to get the timing properly on that, and then you will want to make sure that it functions again and again and again before you go any further. So from this point, the only thing you really have left to do is connect the door line with the swapper line. That seems like it would be easy. It is not as easy as you would think. So let's go ahead and show you what I learned. Coming up here, what I found was this. Okay, this torch here, if that's a torch, this has to be a torch. Okay, if this is a repeater, that has to be a repeater. Okay, so it doesn't matter which way you put this one. This could be a torch, this could be a repeater. This has to be opposite of that, and this has to be the same of that. Okay, now remember, this is coming onto the line before it inverts to go to hit the pistons, the first and last pistons. Same thing here. That exact same line comes up before it inverts to hit those. Now what we're going to do is we're going to count the cycle of this thing. When you push the button, you want certain things to happen. Okay, so we're going to start from closed. Okay, so let's close it, and you'll see it is working. When you close it, okay, so now to open, you push the button, it comes through, it hits T flip-flop, and it turns this line off. Okay, so the first thing it does is goes over there and switches which one are locked, and we're not going to go look at that because we've already determined that, hey, that's set right. So it comes through here, and that's the first thing it does. The second thing, we're We're going to count the ticks. 1, 2, 3, and the fourth tick, that piston is going to retract. That's good. That's the first thing we want to happen. The second thing we want to happen is this piston to retract. Okay, so what we say? So the torch here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. Okay, now this was 4, this was 6. They're retracting. You want to give them a space in between, so not 4 and 5, but 4 and 6. Okay, so then that's the next one, and that opens the door entirely. That would be that number right there, but we'll close it because that's what we're doing. And then next, it's going this way at the same time, but so that's the 6th tick. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 8 runs to the placement pistons. And that's good because 6 pulls these. You're going to want to leave 7 alone, and then 8 pulls. Okay, so that's good. 8, and then what do we got? The block swapping, that's all right. We already know that's right. So that's 8. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and the moving of the pistons is 10. Okay, so 8, 9, 10. That's good. That's good. Okay, then this closes at 11, and it closes right after that one, but none of the pistons are extended on the start, so that's good and it works. I've tested it, so there's that, and that's 11 that closes. Okay, so that is the first push of the button. That's that. Okay, so now what we've got to look at is that came in and it turned this on, right? Well, it turned this on, this one at 1 tick, this one at, what is it, 4, 8, 12, 14. That was tick 15. So the first tick that turned, 15th tick that turned. Okay, so when this comes through and turns this off, that's still on for 15 more ticks. Okay, so let's just count this. That's 15, 16, 17, and the pulling or pushing of the pistons is going to be 18. So 17 and 18 are the ticks that we're looking for. When this comes this way, this one, upon the closing of the placement pistons, they close on the 11th tick. Okay, and these don't start up again until the 17th tick, 18th tick. So what I was looking at is that on tick 11 this closes, or this powers from this line, and that does too. So on tick 12 this should be good to turn on. Okay, but it's not. For some reason it's not. If that was good, I could remove 5 ticks from here. Okay, this line has to power at least 6 ticks after these pistons push back in. If not, it does the funky chicken. It pushes blocks out. So that's something that I'm noticing. It almost seems like the processing of the game requires a 6-tick lag to catch up with what has happened before it does the next move. I've taken the second player controller and just sat above it and watched while I functioned it over here, and well, that's my only guess as to why it doesn't work. But 1 tick away, and I'll show you this. Let's leave it closed to show you. Okay, so when you hit the moment of truth, you may want to do something like this, or you may want to clone your whole build elsewhere. The reason being is that if you are not intimately aware of where each of these pistons goes, and you push the button and one of them misfires and they're left out, it may be difficult to figure out exactly where to place them. So just be aware that it might be a good idea to memorize the placement of these things first. So one tick off. Okay, let's remove a single tick from this. Now it'll open. Watch what happens when it closes. See that? And it gets worse. So what's happened, you see that piston's in there and it's fired. And the only way that could happen is if this turned on before this pushed it up. Okay? This turned on 5 ticks after this should have pushed that up. So there's no reason for that to have happened other than maybe the system just needs time to catch up. So that's why I figured that. And it did that on this side too. It's random as to which side it decides to do that on, but when you get to that, just remove them like I'm removing them here. So all the front swappers are in, all the wall blocks are there. And don't forget, when these top ones push out, redstone dust is knocked off of them. Okay, so now let's go over here and fix the tick. One tick. Okay, remember it's already 5 ticks apart. But watching this, looks like 6 ticks apart is the magic number for that circuit there. I may make a step-by-step video if I ever compact this build. If you think you can build this without having without these pistons being there, you know, without having to cover that up, be my guest. Consider it a challenge. I don't think you can do it. I want somebody to do it, and I want somebody to post a video down in my comments, because I want to have a smaller, prettier one in my bank. And if anyone is good at sequencing doors, please let me know, because I'm trying to get this to do its thing. So if you like this video, go ahead and leave a like. If you have yet to subscribe to this channel, well, now's as good a time as any. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I have my playlists set up to where it's easier to find my videos. If you like the content here, you'll probably like the content in some of those. It shouldn't be too awful long, and I might start getting back into some farms. It's been real. Peace.